You again? Why's it all gotta be you? I first saw you coming in here with breaking and entering. Now it seems you turned to this. Let's take a look at your charges, sweetheart. All right, let's take a look at the charges. First charge, second-degree murder. Poisoning by a deadly toxin injected into the foot. Interesting. Along with... Jesus heavenly Christ! 10 counts of first-degree murder? What kind of a man are you? Oh man, sorry about the delay. I had to deal with a murder case. I can't believe a starfish would do anything like that. Well, actually, that's just Acanthaster Plancy's problem. You may know him as the crown of thorn starfish, but this does bring up a pretty good question. What are the relationships between coral and starfish? Because our good friend here, Mr. Horn Sea Star, Mr. Chocolate Chip Sea Star, or Mr. Proto-Western Notices if you're feeling fancy, would never do such a thing to hurt poor Mr. Anthozoa. Anyways, let's head over to the lab and figure this out. There are 4 main necessities for survival. There is shelter, food, water, and oxygen. We are currently examining marine environments, so this necessity right here doesn't really matter. Though everything in aquatic ecosystems does live in water, it has no impact really on the relationship between our starfish and our coral. So we can't use this as a motive. This place doesn't really seem optimal to be talking about environments. Let's go someplace that'll spice things up a bit.
Wait, what happened to my lab coat? Oh well, I guess coral reefs are large structures capable of holding thousands of different marine life within it. According to the Smithsonian, a quarter of all oceanic life is held within coral reefs. The diversity of reefs is not limited just to the free-swimming organisms. In fact, in the Great Barrier Reef alone, there are over 600 different species of coral life within it. All coral needs to do in order to fill this shelter category is find a nice, smooth substrate or piece of land to attach to so it can grow in order to grow. However, coral reefs, coral can't survive in turbulent seas and stormy weather, or else it'll fly right out of the ground, just like me. Brr. Coral also needs plenty of sunlight and warm water to grow, which I will explain later. Much better. I guess I'm like coral after all. But how does this play into starfish? Well, what kind of environments does starfish like? Well, actually, that's a really bad question. You see, starfish can survive in really any ecosystem, from your cold northern ecosystems to your nice, smooth tropical waters. Well, let's take a look at our main species, the chocolate chip starfish. This guy can only live in warm tropical waters, like its natural habitat in the Solomon Islands. Guess what else is there? A ton of coral reefs. This is actually where this guy lives. You see, you will often find these guys nestled up under stuff like leaf coral, aka your coral with your big, wildly, almost leaf-like structures. Starfish are really relatively hard to eat. They have this hard outer exoskeleton that protects all the juicy meat inside. The only opening is on the bottom where their mouth is kept, along with their tube feet. This hard outer casing really only protects them from not that much. You see, highly mobile creatures that love to live in coral reefs, like sharks and rays, will often feast upon these creatures. That's why you can find them hiding under every nook and cranny in these big coral reefs. Well, guess I gotta say goodbye. Let's get back to the lab.
That was an adventure and a half. I'm really glad to be back and safe with my lab coat. But let's go into some specifics that I wasn't able to get into with that turbulent weather. Coral, both Proto-Western Notices, our chocolate chip sea star who's politely sitting back there, and our coral reef structures can only exist in temperatures between 71 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 22 degrees Celsius, and 84 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 29 give or take degrees Celsius, which means they really can only exist in our same environments. Well, typical starfish can live in much colder environments. As shown, they can live in about close to freezing temperatures, about 3 degrees Celsius, which is insane! Well, I guess this doesn't help our situation with the murder. It doesn't seem plausible. The crown of thorns starfish has long spines that it uses to basically provide its own shelter. These spines carry a deadly toxin that can actually kill a person, even just with one puncture. This crown of thorns starfish seems to be a real dangerous enemy, not just to coral, but to the public as a whole. Reefs provide little to no protection for these crown of thorns starfish. They are just too big and too tall to fit under some of the mass structures that coral reefs has. So I guess shelter really is out of the way. So now there are 2. Oxygen doesn't seem likely. There's no instances of other creatures killing for oxygen. Starfish absorb it through their skin, and coral reefs supply it through a tiny microorganism that lives inside it. The crown of thorns has really no need to be killing for it. I mean, there's no elevators in the ocean, are there? So I guess this leaves us with food. This is the only other need that we need to fill, but I don't know. I thought starfish fed on microorganisms. But I guess we'll have to find this out together. To the kitchen! Wait, why am I still here? Kitchen! That's odd. Oh, thank you. Oh, I guess I'm not allowed to film in the kitchen. Oh well, I am always prepared. Watch! Just let me do this. Bad angle, but just look. Come on. I have a full food web up here. Isn't that just neat? Well, bad art and lack of good camera angles aside, this is the entirety of the coral reef life system. From your tiny phytoplankton all the way to your mean, big, tertiary consumers like your sharks and your manta rays. This big cycle actually has some process to it. I'll explain that in depth. Take. Ready, set, go. Okay, so first we start with our phytoplankton, which kind of just exists in a warm area, combined with smooth, soft substrate, for our coral polyps. These then will be a good steady base for our sponges, or porphyra, our bivalve mollusks, our sea anemones, the rest of our cnidarians, and our Sibelidae. I'm gonna guess that's how it's said, but. Then all of these combine and lead to our secondary consumers. Those being our angelfish, our starfish, or our echinodermata, and our fish, and stuff like pufferfish, which is weird, and it feeds on featherworms. Why does it do that? I don't know. But these fish don't actually feed on the sea anemone. They also use the coral for protection, along with the coral reef. All of these combined, except the pufferfish, because nobody wants to eat you. You're disgusting. Combined to have the shark, or the Selachimorpha, or the Batoida, I'm going to assume that's how it's said, to feed upon every single one of these. And that is our life cycle. That was a lot, but let's get back into the main topic. A lot of people think that corals aren't actually animals, but that is completely false. Corals, just like you or me, have to feed off of other organisms in order to survive, but they also rely on a little help from our friend zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae are tiny little microscopic organisms that live inside the coral polyps. They actually provide both oxygen and sugars to the coral itself, making it so that the coral doesn't have to have a respiratory system, which is pretty interesting come to the fact that every other thing on this giant list has a respiratory system of some sort, excluding the phytoplankton, because they're plankton. They don't have enough size for that. Outside of relying on the zooxanthellae, corals are also predators, along with being habitats for our multitude of species. They are part of the phylum Cnidaria, just like our sea anemones here. Which means they really have long tentacles which they use to capture microbiological life. The jellyfish and the sea anemone also use it to catch things that are visible, but this coral, having it being really small, can only catch microbial life, which is pretty fascinating considering it's a big stationary, almost rock. Now, starfish, on the other hand, are part of a different phylum, that being Echinodermata. And though they may not look like it with its cute little appearance, these guys are actually ferocious predators, and they will feed upon any bivalve mollusk there is. Hence why when they start growing, you will start seeing a starfish there quite soon. Starfish, as you might see on their backside with these little things, these are actually tube feet, which they use as a suction to pry apart other mollusks, and which they can even eat their own kind. It's pretty upsetting, but these things are small but mighty. These powerful suction cups, wait. If the starfish happens to have a strong enough tube feet, then it can pry open more than just our bivalve mollusks. It can even pry open our own coral reef. Let's take a look. Hold on. Now, starfish and coral reefs really have a commensal relationship, which means only one species benefits, that being the starfish. Coral reefs, on the other hand, don't get any other benefits, other than, I guess, getting rid of competition for microbacterial life with the starfish eating things that eat that. But that's about it. Typically, the starfish and the coral reefs really live in harmony. They don't really get hurt except for the occasional zap from a nidal blast or two. Starfish shouldn't really mind them because they have a hard outer exoskeleton that also protects them from predators. I guess that has more than one use. However, that all changed when the Ancaster plantae attacked. See, for a lot of this presentation, I've been using the words most or usually, and that's because of this guy right here, our prime suspect, and I guess hungry fellow, Ancaster plantae, or our crown of thorns starfish. Outside of humans, these guys kill off more coral reefs than any other creature. According to a survey by the Australian Marine Institute of Science, these guys kill off more coral reefs than cyclones, meaning this guy is worse than a natural disaster. So you might be thinking, why now? Why now is this creature taking over our coral reefs? Well, that is why. This guy right here, being the Tronia tritonus, is the main predator of the crown of thorns starfish. However, due to its overfishing for touristic and commercial use, these things are slowly going extinct, letting the crown of thorns starfish go wild. See, this relationship between the Tronia tritonus and the crown of thorns to the coral are both predator-prey relationships, because while one of them benefits, the other dies. The crown of thorns starfish and the chocolate chip sea star both prove that one species can have several different relationships with another. I guess that kind of sets up a moral for today's episode. Don't never judge a marine creature by its species. Hooey! I guess you did show me. Oh man, I can't believe I was being such discriminatory towards our good friends here. I guess crown of thorns starfish really is an anomaly. Thank you so much. Well, it's no problem. I'm glad I could have helped you out on this whole case. But I guess this ends this episode on a high note. See you next time when I divulge on the systems of the horseshoe crab. So remember, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking questions. See y'all next time.